Alright guys, so here's just a really quick and easy little compositional tip, and it's about using negative space, creating intentional gaps and silence in your composition, in your production, you know? So just as a quick example, here's one way you can do it. Let's say you've got a loop here, you've got a full-on drum loop, and you've got perhaps a bass line playing. I've got like a Reese bass set up here with a little melody on it, so it sounds like this. So it's nice, but we want to add some more funk and flair by using just negative space. So using some silence in there. So you can find different, spots in your composition where it might work, quite nicely to add a bit of funk. But one spot you could try for a composition that's arranged a bit like this. Classic kind of D&B drums, a Reese bass that kind of changes, pretty much every bar. What we can do here is we can go to the first bar, and so you have the beats here. So in the first bar you've got 4 beats, right? So beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. So we can actually make a gap in between beat 3 and beat 4. So it's going to start here like halfway through beat 3, right? So 1, 2, 3, and then halfway. And so what we can do is just use half a beat to create the gap, so we can delete everything from the composition at that point, including the Reese, and then it's going to sound like this. And it kind of makes sense in this groove then to do it again over here on the third bar. So once again here we can do this trick where we just cut everything off, and remember it's only for half a bar. If you did it, sorry, it's only half a beat. If you did it at like a full beat, in my opinion, then at that point it's a bit too extreme. I mean, it could kind of work if you filled it out nicely, but it sounds a little almost too lazy now, So half a beat though, I think that sounds really good. You could kind of get away with not doing anything and just leaving that in there. And then you've created this intentional groove shift by doing literally nothing, all you've done is taken away, so it's always good to find spots where you can take stuff away. And this is just one example, and it's in an extreme because I'm doing with everything, but the same concept applies for like individual layers as well, when you can create extra funk or groove by deleting, creating space somewhere. I often do this in my compositions when I'm trying to refine the groove and get that best final groove. I'm usually always sort of cutting out little gaps here and there, but here's one way that it's sort of quite more obvious, but now it kind of sounds like a nice funky twist to the composition, And so what you could do now you've got this gap, you could fill it in with a sample if you want to. Or you could just add a nice little delay onto something like one of your main elements like the Reese, So what I've done here is I've bounced out the Reese down below, so I can create like a tail, little tail sound. And so I've put on the Beam Haze, the free plugin, and I've used this setting on here called the Inharmonic Resonator. It just has this nice, really weird flangey it's not really flangey, it's kind of like sounds like it's going down a metal tube or something, kind of resonance, Anyway, I've just created that, and then I'm basically just like chopping it to only fill in that gap and putting a little fade at the start as well, so it's kind of soft, so it's just this like little brushed tail that kind of sits after the Reese, so you can kind of hear it if you just sort of play the Reese here. So you've just got this nice little soft tail, and it's better to have that in the gap than nothing in this case. Just feels a bit more, feels nice because you get to have this little springy tail texture from the Reese, it feels very natural, but you still got that, creating that whole funk shift in the groove though. You've filled in the gap a little bit to give it like a nice little delay texture, but it's very, very subtle. But the rest of it's just silence, and then you've still got that funky effect, So it's the gap. It's a negative space gap done with a bit of color, essentially. So it's almost like you're coloring the silence a little bit. So it's not like I haven't got a hat in there or a kick or anything else to like keep the beat going. I haven't put it in a new sample. I've just used like kind of the main element, like the main lead or the main bass to just color the gap almost, And I've colored it obviously using the beam haze to create like weirder, different, more unusual harmonics for the tail than would be like just a normal reverb, So it's a bit more of an interesting kind of little color for the silence. Coloring silence is what we're doing over here today. So that's just one example. I could probably, for example, I could try to find some other spots in the groove, or you could try even smaller gaps or larger gaps. But something like that is a nice concept that will work more often than not. Especially in this position. Again, try different positions out yourself, but just pay attention to how you can create different kind of shifts in the groove. But this one seems to work quite well for a normal D and B beat. So that's on, beat 3.5 and just before 4. So 3.5 to 4. You take out half a beat of everything and have a bit of silence there, and then you've got a nice little funky twist to your composition. So I've done this in lots of my tracks in the past, like these kind of intentional gaps. If you listen through to some of my old tracks, even like Shakuhachi, it kind of has this gap where I kind of quickly insert the flute sample. If you kind of listen on the drop, it's the same technique, but in that case I've just filled out the gap with a little flute one shot, so you can fill out the gaps with some random contrasting sounds as well for fun, or you can just have them as complete silence, or you can have them as like a subtle sort of colored silence like I've done on this one, so different ways you can play it. But just try, like, if you're getting a bit lost in your composition and you want to spice things up, just try doing something where you just sort of delete, half a beat or something somewhere. And yeah, if it makes sense in the groove and it kind of adds to the funk, then it's probably, especially if you're writing drum and bass, or even more so if you're writing neurofunk, if it enhances the funky feeling of the groove, then by putting in that silence, then it's a win, really, So anyway, give it a little go, my G's, if you haven't done it before. And let me know in the comments if it's a useful little compositional technique for your own tracks as well. Having these intentional gaps and little bits of negative space. So hopefully that's a little inspiration for some of you guys who might not have tried this before. I imagine a lot of you have probably tried this technique out already. But it's always a nice reminder as a little thing to do, just in case you need some extra inspiration for your compositions as well. All right, thanks for watching today, my G's. Have a great rest of your day. Be more from me very soon. And as I mentioned, leave a comment down below, hit the like button and subscribe and all that good stuff. Check out the links in my description as well for preset packs, Patreon, one-on-one coaching and mastering services. All right, my G's, that's it for me today. More from me soon. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.